Welcome back to Teach a Man to Fish channel. Today's video is going to be sharpening knives. I got asked in an old video what I did to keep my knives sharp. What I decided to do is get some thrift store knives and restore them back to a sharp edge. This isn't complex. I'm no expert and I certainly don't have OCD. I go after success. Let's go ahead and get started. So in the interest of not spending a lot of money on my knives, I did go to a thrift store. In a bin full of knives, I picked up, there was probably about 30 of them in there, and I picked through them and grabbed the best of the pile of knives that were in there. So the tools that I'll be using for this sharpen is of course a knife. I've got a 3-hone system. I'll put a link down to go for purchasing it. There's a steel hone as well as a leather strop that I made myself. I'm going to use this magnifier, a flashlight, put it directly over this edge and see if you can see some of the burrs and problems with this knife and what we're going to be fixing. See how this works. There's the before. You can see, there you go, that's a good photo of some of those burrs. Let me see if I can zoom in a little. There you can see a pretty heavy roll. So if you envision that knife edge as curled or chipped or bent, every one of those burrs catches hold of whatever it's trying to cut, and it's a snag point. There's another nice roll. The sharper that point is, the less bent it is, the less chips it has in it, the better it is to slice directly through whatever it is you're trying to cut. You'll really notice that on a piece of paper because those burrs snag as you go along through it. What we're doing is actually turning those burrs back out through a honing process, as well as directly recreating that bevel or that edge on the knife and grinding it down to get it back to that point, as opposed to either flattened, curled, chipped, banged up. We want it back to that perfect angle, or it's not even perfect. Again, I'm not uptight about my knives. I shoot for somewhere around 17, 20 degrees-ish on my kitchen knives, so that's what we're shooting for. Look at that curled edge, as well as a couple of nicks in there, each of those snags. And then right at the end, a big old gouge at the point. Here you can see it's about as sharp as a butter knife before we start. Throw a little bit of oil. This first stone, I turned the sound way down because it kind of sounds like a cinder block. And it's about as rough as a cinder block. But I make these circular motions, rotating back and forth, and I try and keep the same number of strokes on each side, and you'll get better at maintaining your angle the more you do this. What you'll notice, if you watch some of the other videos, these guys get really uptight with their sharpening. This is not expensive equipment. You'll see I'm not sitting here for hours and hours working on this. This is probably all told about a 20-minute process. You just saw me go through all 3 stones, coarse, medium, fine, and there I'm working on the final edge with the fine stone. Now I'll switch over to a fine diamond. And again, this is all part of the Smith sharpening system. This is, you throw a little bit of water on it, and I kind of use this as just a fine diamond stone, last touches to the knife before we go into the polishing. Let's take a quick look, see how we're doing. You can feel these, and in just a second you're going to see I wasn't real pleased with the size of the nicks in this blade. I had to go a bit more extreme to get those out, and that's just to plain old flat grind them out. In just a second here, you'll see one. There's one right there.
So even with the extent of the work, and right there at the end, that doozy that you saw a couple of minutes ago is still there. So if that's the case, I just go with a direct perpendicular to the stone, grind that edge, and I'm already ahead of the game because my angle is already getting better, and just sharpen that angle up. Doesn't take as long as it did in the beginning. This is a homemade strop, and up in the corner here you can see I've got a video where I made this strop. These can be purchased. I'll also put a link down below where you can purchase one of these strops. So now what you're doing is you're just buffing, getting those microscopic burrs out of the way. If you're fortunate enough to have a buffing wheel, which I am, makes even quicker work of buffing out those microscopic burrs. So now let's take a look where we are. This is the final cut, pun intended. Again, this is more than adequate for my needs. I'm not shaving with this. That big nick that was there at the end of the blade is now gone. There's some of that's fuzz. You can see there from towels and things that I'm using. But yeah, it's polished up. All of those burrs, nicks, rolls are all gone. Probably about a 20-minute process with the equipment that I use in this video. So I paid $8.75 for this knife. It's probably a $50 knife, brand new. And I think it's worth it. Good enough for me. I use all of my kitchen utensils like a screwdriver, so I really don't want to have a $200 knife, in addition to the fact that I've got kids in there that have no idea what it takes to maintain an edge, and they're banging across things when they're cutting meat on the bones and just turning that edge, so I don't need an expensive blade. There's the results. Tell me that's for the ease and the cost, and this is it's a nice sharpening process. I'm not trying to make razors, but that's darn close. A little bit of camera work here. Curling it up. So again, from a bucket of knives to where we stand now. So YouTube says that this video is perfect for your viewing habits, and this video is my latest upload. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please click like, subscribe, share, and come on back for more.